Daily Words of God. When the words of God come forth, you should immediately receive them and eat and drink them. No matter how much you understand, the one point of view to which you must hold fast is to eat and drink, to know, and to practice His words. This is something you should be able to do. Never mind about how great your stature may become. Simply focus on eating and drinking His words. This is what man should cooperate in. Your spiritual life is mainly to try to enter into the reality of eating and drinking God's words and putting them into practice. It is not your business to focus on anything else. Church leaders should be able to guide all their brothers and sisters so that they know how to eat and drink God's words. This is the responsibility of every single church leader. Be they young or old, all should regard the eating and drinking of God's words as of great significance, and should have His words in their hearts. Entering into this reality means entering the age of kingdom. Today, most people feel that they cannot live without eating and drinking the words of God, and feel that His words are fresh regardless of the time. This means that they are beginning to set upon the right track. God uses words to do His work and provide for man. When everyone yearns after and thirsts for the words of God, humanity shall enter into the world of His words. God has spoken a great deal. How much have you come to know? How much have you entered into? If a church leader has not guided their brothers and sisters into the reality of God's words, then they will have been derelict in their duty and will have failed to fulfill their responsibilities. Whether your understanding is profound or superficial, regardless of the degree of your understanding, you must know how to eat and drink His words. You must pay great attention to His words and understand the importance and the necessity of eating and drinking them. God having spoken so much, if you do not eat and drink His words, or try to seek, or put His words into practice, this cannot be called believing in God. Since you do believe in God, then you must eat and drink His words, experience His words, and live out His words. Only this can be called belief in God. If you say you believe in God with your mouth, and yet are unable to put any of His words into practice or to produce any reality, this is not called believing in God. Rather, it is seeking bread to satisfy hunger. Speaking only of trivial testimonies, useless things, and superficial matters, without possessing even the slightest bit of reality, these do not constitute belief in God, and you have simply not grasped the right way of believing in God. Why must you eat and drink as many as possible of God's words? If you do not eat and drink His words, but seek only to ascend to heaven, is that believing in God? What is the first step one who believes in God should take? By what path does God perfect man? Can you be perfected without eating and drinking the words of God? Can you be considered a person of the kingdom without the words of God to serve as your reality? What exactly does belief in God mean? Believers in God should, at the very least, be well behaved on the outside. Most important of all is to be possessed of the words of God. No matter what, you can never turn away from His words. Knowing God and fulfilling His intentions are all achieved through His words. In future, every nation, denomination, religion, and sector will be conquered through God's words. God will speak directly, and all people will hold the words of God in their hands. And by means of this, humanity will be perfected. Within and without, the words of God pervade throughout. Humanity will speak God's words with their mouths, practice in accordance with God's words, and keep the words of God within, remaining steeped in God's words both inside and out. Thus will humanity be perfected. Those who fulfill the intentions of God and are able to bear witness to Him, these are the people who possess the words of God as their reality. Entering into the age of Word, the age of millennial kingdom, is the work that is being accomplished today. From now on, practice engaging in fellowship about the words of God. Only by means of eating and drinking, as well as experiencing the words of God, will you be able to live out the words of God. You must produce some practical experience in order to convince others. If you cannot live out the reality of God's words, no one will be persuaded. All those who are used by God can live out the reality of God's words. If you cannot produce this reality and bear testimony to God, this shows that the Holy Spirit has not worked in you and that you have not been perfected. This is the importance of the words of God. Do you have a heart that thirsts for the words of God? Those who thirst for the words of God thirst for truth, and only people such as this are blessed by God. In the future, there are many more words that God will say to all religions and all denominations. He first speaks and utters His voice among you to make you complete, before moving on to speak and utter His voice among the Gentiles to conquer them. Through His words, all will be sincerely and utterly convinced. Through the words of God and His revelations, man's corrupt disposition diminishes. He gains the appearance of a man, and his rebellious disposition lessens. The words work upon man with authority and conquer man within the light of God. The work that God does in the present age, as well as the turning points of His work, can all be found within His words. If you do not read His words, you will understand nothing. Through your own eating and drinking His words, and through engaging in fellowship with your brothers and sisters and your actual experiences, you will gain the full knowledge of God's words. Only then will you be able to truly live out their reality.